No. Right.
So that's my solution that I was looking out for. Can we put a no parking sign up there from 2 o'clock to 2:30 or 2:40, whatever that number is, and then have him, warn them. I don't want to write tickets, but to get it back into custom, post-COVID, to get, the kids get on the bus. And the thing is, most of this is convenience because they're saying, well, I can pick up my kid and then go, I don't have to stay home and wait. That's why I appreciate that. I know that you guys are aware of it. That's all why I wanted to come tonight.
No, I appreciate it.
And I do thank you for all your work. I know there's a lot of stuff that the general public doesn't understand that what you do. And then when I came here and saw this chorus, the honor chorus, it just makes me proud and it gives us old people a hope. There's not a lot of hope out there right now.
Right.
And we pass it to you guys. That's right. We screwed it up. So,
Thank you very much.
Right. We would give you free coffee if you would volunteer to be a crossing guard, though, right? I'm always looking for some help.
Maybe a red vest as well. They throw that in too.
I don't know. I think build a new sewer line, we can just have to
Right.
Wash it more than-
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Yes, please, would you come forward and let us know who you are and where you live?
My name is Carol, and I'm I came tonight to talk about something on the agenda, but I just wanted to point out that the tax increase, and I'm sure people know, we just had approximately $80 a year tax increase. Now we're talking about the millage rate increase, and then we also have many teachers and counselors that were hired with a $1.5 million one-time ESSER fund. And I think, if I remember correctly, that's only going to pay for your salary for the next year and a half. And then we don't really have a plan to pay for them. So I have a feeling in about another year or so, that's going to be another tax increase. So, it just seems, looking forward, that's a concern as a taxpayer. What I came to talk tonight about was on the agenda is to approve the Western Governors University for student teachers. And I know, I talked with Dr. Patel, and she said there's not as many teachers. And I know that is an issue nationwide, but I'm not sure it's so much here, because I know that Marywood, they're going all the way to Carbondale, their teachers to student teach, and I would think they might like to come here. And I looked into Western Governors University, and these they have a 100% acceptance rate. So that means you fill out the application, you're basically in. And where students from maybe Bloomsburg or Marywood, they're in a 4-year degree, these students can complete a bachelor's degree in 36 months. And there's really, it's kind of go at your own pace. So there's no deadlines, and it's a competency-based education, which means that they show competency and certain skills they can skip classes. So, Abington Heights, I'm just looking at that, is that the best? Some people, I'm not saying this, but some people were even calling it a middle diploma school. I don't know enough about it, I'm not trying to call it that, but, where is this coming from? Are they from PA? Are they all over the country? Are we doing this because I know under the ESSER grant they want teacher diversity? So is that, maybe there's not enough diversity at Marywood, we have to go to them to get diversity? So it just doesn't make sense to me, like it just doesn't, I don't see the logic. So I would say we need to reconsider that. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, you can speak on it. I can speak on it too, but go ahead. Yeah.
So the teacher shortage is nationwide, and it is here in Abington Heights. So we currently have several positions available where we have no applicants. And some of them are contracted and some of them are LTS. So it's not that we are immune to this teacher shortage. And what we've done with the HR department is really to reach out to different universities to try to entice pre-service teachers to come, because the reality is that by having student teachers in our classrooms, One, they don't ever teach until we feel that they're ready. So our teachers mentor them and work very closely with them. And if they are not doing well, they do not remain. So there are student teachers who fail, who are asked to leave because they don't meet the criteria. So I don't want you to think that we're just going to put subpar people in front of our children. That would never be the case. But also what we're trying to do is to entice pre-service teachers to come to Abington Heights so that, one, we can have a stake in their education and we can help grow them as pre-service teachers. And two, we can start to have a connection with all different types of universities so that teachers start to apply here and they start to become part of our community. Also, pre-service teachers, once you have 60 credits, you can be a substitute teacher. And we know along with the teacher shortage, there's also a substitute teacher shortage. So this will increase our pool. So there's a lot of different prongs to why we're doing this. And Western governors, they actually reached out to us. And if we said yes, and pending board approval, we will continue to work with them. But the reality is if the student teacher is not making gains with our students, they will not teach them. So I don't want you to think that there's not a fail-safe for us.
Dr. Patel, I have a couple of questions. Thank you for clarifying the opportunity for student teachers to come and get more education in being a teacher. But my question is, does Abington Heights offer any courses on pre-teaching or opportunities for students to actually take a course in education and wanting to teach and maybe be a student teacher of a teacher and get some type of a, I think at one point, I think Abington Heights had a little preschool and they had an opportunity for any type of student, I think it was just at the high school, to take a preschool courses, and I think they had children volunteers to come in and work and give opportunities for our high school students to think if that would be a passion for them. Do we have anything like that now?
To my knowledge, that program no longer exists, and we do not have an education track of that nature.
I can say that, and we'll look into CCTC. I don't know if they have the early learning program over there, but I will say that I had the opportunity to meet with the interim president, I believe, and provost at Keystone College to talk to them about dual enrollment. So we talked about dual enrollment at Lackawanna College. Keystone offers an early learning program with a certification. This would allow or put students in a position to obtain some entry level, and certainly they could progress through if they wanted to. So we are beginning to have conversations with them about expanding programs like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public speakers? Okay, Dr. Shaver, can we move on to the action and discussion items, please?
Yep. Mr. Eckert, I would ask that the board approve the personnel report as presented.
So moved.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 9-0.
Mr. Eckert, ask the board approve the resignation agreement for employee 2A.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Medensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah?
Yes.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mr. Fleming?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 9-0.
Mr. Eckert, ask the board to consider a motion to approve the contract between Abington Heights School District and the Chester County Intermediate Unit for services to be rendered by the Brandywine Virtual Academy.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the motion,
I have a couple questions.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Medensky?
Basically, why the change and what's the benefit and what's the impact of cost?
You want to take that or?
I'd be happy to take that. So right now, we have a very small population of students that are in our virtual academy. And what we are seeing is that it is not servicing them and they are not being successful. So these students have complex needs and being in a brick and mortar is not an option for them. So we really need to explore other opportunities for them. Chester County IU is a really, really strong program of a virtual academy, and they offer multiple different platforms and multiple different options. They also have better metrics and measurements for attendance so that students are held a little bit more accountable, and there's a stronger checks and balances for their attendance and making sure that they're following kind of the progression of coursework. The platform we were using, we have found after using it for about a year that it is very difficult to track how they're doing and how they're progressing. Also, we find that working with an IU is a better relationship than just working straight with a company.
And cost?
The cost is a little bit more per student. It's I believe, it's about $1,000 more a student per year. But there's different measures. So Edmentum, which is what we're currently using, was one cost and it was a flat fee. The Brandywine, which is Chester County IU, there are options. So I don't believe that there will be a net gain in expense because we will be able to work it out with the number of courses that they take and do kind of an a la carte menu, which Edmentum does not allow.
So
3. Currently, there's 3.
3.
Correct.
So this, plainly, we have 3 students currently in Edmentum. This has become an option for some people, with some students with some complex needs. We feel that this is a better option. In fact, we feel it's a better option than some of the cyber charter options out there. So if we can provide a much better option for our students, and I think overall everybody gains.
Another cost savings is right now we pay for a semester and we pay for a seat. So once you pay for that seat, if that student returns to us, that is lost. This has a lot more flexibility where it's not per semester, it's by a month or by a course. So there's one student in particular that's hybrid, that is in school for some time and in a virtual academy for other. That would be a cost decrease.
Mrs. Tierney?
Yeah, I'm noticing on the contract that it started August 30th to June 7th of 23. So do we have students currently there now with it? So it's for next year?
No, we will start this at the change of the second semester.
So approximately soon, right now? Okay.
Pending board approval, we would like to start this now and move our 3 students to this different platform, because what happens is with a virtual academy, the courses are only by semester, so it's a natural break for them. I didn't recognize the August date, so I apologize. It's probably when we started speaking with them and investigating, and I know Mr. Smith, Mr. Snyder, and I spent a significant amount of time looking into this.
Okay, thank you.
One more, will you communicate with those students and families before you make the switch? Or
So
have you done that already?
we have not, because I did not want to be preemptive in a board approval. So tomorrow morning, Mr. Smith and I have a scheduled time to chat about how we're going to communicate this with the 3 families and what that's exactly going to look like. And then next week, we're going to meet with this platform, Chester County IU, and talk about how to navigate these students over.
And so our contract with Edmonton is, we won't owe them anything, right? We can get out of our contract with them?
Absolutely. And they have already been notified that we have looked elsewhere. Actually, it's not a loss for them. because as I said, Chester County IU uses multiple platforms. Edmentum is one of the platforms they use.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Sorry, my voice again. Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 9-0.
Mr. Acker, I'd ask that the board approve the industry fast-track dual enrollment agreement between Abington Heights and Johnson College. And, I should have said this in the very beginning too, when we talked about dual enrollment. The secretary mentioned this in the article. The previous Secretary of Education mandated that all school districts have an articulation agreement with a post-secondary institution. We already had one in place. We also, and as mentioned there, have one with Johnson College where students have the opportunity to fast track themselves towards a degree there. There's fewer students there than we have in Lackawanna, but this is again another articulation agreement.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karen,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. 9-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board approve the Lackawanna College dual enrollment agreement for Abington Heights for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Robeson.
Yes.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming, Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karen,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. 9-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board approve the 21-22 IDEA use of funds agreement and the 21-22 IDEA ARP use of funds agreement with the NEIU.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Tierney,
Yes.
Mr. Abdallah,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Fleming,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karen,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 9-0.
Mr. Acker, I ask the board approve the agreement between the Abington Heights School District and the Western Governors University for placement of student teachers.
So moved. Second.
Very good.
Thanks, Greg.
Nice- nice
You second that, right?
harmony there.